Good morning and greetings, everyone. Uh, Welcome at the Consortium of Indo-Pacific Researchers. I'm Indu Suksena, Chief Operation Officer and Senior Fellow at the consortium. Today, we are going to talk about Iran war and implications for the Indo-Pacific. As we know, today is the 12th day of Operation Epic Fury, a U.S.-Israel joint military operation in Iran. On the very first day of this operation, Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei was killed. But the objective of this operation are wider, that are, as per the US administration, to destroy the Iran's ballistic missile arsenals, to eliminate the imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime, to destroy the proxy terror networks, and cripple the Iranian naval forces. While we know the strategic goals of this Operation Epic Fury are clear, but the ongoing conflict has far-reaching implications. It not only imposes a severe toll on the global economy, and as we heard that about the Strait of Hormuz, and we will discuss this in our discussion, and significant loss of human life, but it also contributes to escalating instability in the wider Indo-Pacific region. And this instability could have the lasting impact of international security and in the Indo-Pacific region. So we have several key questions here for this 1 hour of discussion, including how the war will end. We know the U.S. strategic objective, but and when these objectives will be achieved, and what are the pathways, what are the solutions of if there is any peace resolutions, or whether the major powers of Russia, China, will they involve, and what time. So we have the distinguished panelists from the region here to walk through us with these questions, and it's my pleasure and honor to introduce them here formally. We have Ambassador Anil Trigunath. Ambassador Trigunath is a distinguished a former Indian diplomat who represented India in over a dozen of foreign countries. He is a leading expert of India's foreign policy, international security, and West Asia. He serves an advisor on the MENA region and BRICS. His expertise are highly regarded across government, corporate, and academia. Welcome, Ambassador.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr.
We have Dr. Nagao, who is a non-resident fellow at Hudson Institute based in Tokyo, Japan. Dr. Nagao's research area is US-Japan-India security cooperation, and he has co-authored several articles and books. He is a highly regarded scholar and faculty at Japan International University, and his work is focused on the Indo-Pacific region. We have, welcome Dr. Nagao. We have Dr. Sneha Abdullah Close. She is a political scientist and research affiliate at Stanford Center for International Security and Cooperation. She has experience in top US think tanks and defense sector. Her main research interests are nuclear security in South Asia, particularly Pakistan's regional relations. Previously, she taught in Pakistan's Department of Defense and Strategic Study. Welcome, Sneha. Before I introduce our panelists today, for their initial statement, I would like to announce that opinions and views expressed are solely those of authors and do not reflect the position of any organizations or institutions. Thank you, and welcome again. So now I would like to invite for the initial statement that for 3 minutes opening statement, I would like to go with the Ambassador. What is your main takeaway when you heard about this Operation Epic Fury? What were the thoughts in your mind?
Well, thank you, Dr. Indu, for inviting me, and also with such distinguished panelists on a very topical and dangerous subject at the moment, which is the ongoing war in the Middle East, which has been further compounded by the lack of objectives. You mentioned that there are strategic objectives. I wish the administration had any clue about it, because they confused in the first place the state with the leader. They thought if you eliminate the leader, then the state will collapse. Then the way the narratives have changed from regime change to nuclear and missile elimination to navy elimination or destruction to completely eliminate means either they don't understand what Iran is, or they thought it is something like Venezuela. And that's why precisely in 12 days, like last time, they are all trying to find an off-ramp. And this is true that what Rubio said, that this time around, it was the Israelis who have been hankering to go to war with Iran through this mad syndrome since 1979, were in the driving seat and were determined to go. And that was there. But of course, President Trump didn't want somebody else to take the credit. So he said it was me. And after that, the Israelis have joined. Whatever be the case, we must not forget that currently we are going through this epic fury, lion's roar, and true promise by Iran. Now, this is a war in which we have to remember a few things, that there are these arch enemies for the last half a century. This is a war between two radical ideologies. And this is a war between North and South this time. This is a war between regime change and regime survival. This is a war between civilization and non-civilization. This is a war between brute power and resilience. This is unlike other wars, as fight to the finish defines it today. This is a war in the Abraham family, yet again engulfing the world. This could be a war between the West and the certain group, which is China, Iran, Russia, North Korea, going forward either in the hot or in the Cold War 2.0. This could turn into a battle space for hegemonistic ambitions of the regional and extra-regional actors as well as non-state actors. So I think this is extremely important to understand that. If that was not so, both US and Iran had agreed, almost agreed on everything. And for the first time, Iran had agreed to desist from enriching uranium further or even controlling it with them. This is what, if you have to believe the Omanese foreign minister. So we saw that this was, while the agreement had been done, this appeared that as if they were trying to buy time to put the American assets in the region, because they did not have enough adequate resources after Venezuela, and they were all moved into the region. So until all that happened, they waited and they continued to have the charade of negotiations. So this has definitely impacted a great deal on the US's reputation. Not that there was much, but still that is something that is, I believe, is continuing to impact and will continue to impact. Because it is the regions, this war was feared for so many years. And the US administration was particularly responsible in keeping it under the cover. They had decided that the war between the two would be disastrous for the region. That's precisely what we are looking today, what is happening there. So there was a regime change agenda, there was a removal of nuclear and missile threats or the Navy, and to establish regional hegemony for Israel. And since its security remains paramount for the US foreign policy, as well as also to restrict the Chinese access to Iranian oil, like they had done in the larger context. While he continues to talk about G2, looking forward to his visit to China. And they also were hoping and banking on something called that they could reignite the youth and popular discontent and create some kind of ethnic conflicts through Kurds and Azeris and others. And we have seen that there have been false flag operations. So they thought that all the Gulf countries will unite against Iran so that if there is a land invasion, they'll be able to go there. That's probably there. Then they asked for to off ramp is unconditional surrender, and that Trump will select the leader. So I'm not quite sure if the Mustafa Khamenei is President Trump's choice, but how do you view this kind of a derangement as something? So my big question is whether Americans truly understand the mental and physical landscape of Iranians and Iran, or they're confusing with Iraq, Libya, or Venezuela, or for that matter, Syria. This is true that Iran is in the driving seat of the US foreign policy, which is very clear. But I hope that this is something that they will do. What has Iran done in this? Supply chain disruptions. And of course, the strategy has been like, as they call, mosaic defensive strategy and scorched earth strategy. This was planned since last 8 months when they saw the first time. So they were also being very smart that while they were working on talking to the Americans, wanted the sanctions to be lifted so that they have some normalcy in the country, but they were also at the same time preparing for it. That's why within less than 48 hours, they reacted and attacked every single base of US. And so far, US has spent huge amounts of money and ammunition. So this will be a war which will end when the exhaustion of military resources will come about. And it's already coming about. We are looking at it. But I don't think that Iran is going to buckle under before. It already seems that it appears that it is in the winning spree. It may not win the war per se, but it is not losing it either. Now, that is something that is probably inside. It's going to have a very major global economic impact. It will have supply chain impact, and countries like India are going to suffer a great deal. We can move forward to the next question. Thank you.
Thank you, Buster. Just a few seconds observation on your statement. As you mentioned, then I will invite another panelist. You mentioned about the verses and verses. This war, like as we know, the President Trump doesn't want war, and he stated multiple times that he ended 7 wars, and where we know that again this we heard in the news, and also that they had a chance to kill Khamenei a year ago when there was a Gaza war, because there was agencies intel from Mossad and CIA, but President Trump didn't do that because he believed in the negotiations. He believed in the talks, but the talks were failed, multiple failure. Again, in 1967, as we go back in the history, Arab countries, the 12 Arab countries were against Israel, but now the Gulf countries are attacked by Iran. And also the Iranian people, they have been protesting since long years about the women's rights, about their basic rights, and they do it in the Western countries because the regime didn't want to let them do. But we will discuss all these things in our next round. Let me invite Dr. Nagao here. Dr. Nagao, over to you. Your opening statement, please.
Thank you very much. This is a precious chance for me to explain. In case of Japan, and in case of people in this region, remember what happened in North Korea when we see what happened in Iran. Because 1990s, under the President Clinton, that time the U.S. was planning to attack North Korea to stop North Korea's nuclear program. But that time they hesitated to do it, and diplomatically they solved. But after that 2006, the North Korea tested nuclear devices. So, and now all the people think it was too late. So, view from this example, it is true that some certain number of the people understand why the U.S. intervened in Iran this time. Because if the United States wait, it will be a repeated history of the North Korea, but in Iran. So that's why we can check what kind of scenario has happened if Iran has nuclear weapon. Indeed, this is serious because Saudi will follow to possess a nuclear weapon is expected because they declared that. And in case of the Israel, Iran attack Israel to destroy Israel completely because Israel is a small country and by using nuclear weapon relatively easy to destroy. And in case of the ballistic missile development, under the peaceful purpose space program, Iran can develop the missile within the 7 to 8 years. So that's why, view from the example of the North Korea, it is true that 7 to 8 years is very near. So that's why this is the chance and they try to do it. They believe that is one kind of the understandable situation to prevent repeated history. But to prevent nuclear program, there is a tool the U.S. need to focusing on. This is capability and will. Capability, they bomb in 2025, delayed 2 years, and this time the bomb again, maybe delay more, I think. But in case of the will, regime change or regime control, this is a word I made, but regime control, simply said, like Venezuela, the changing the government's attitude, and this could be the follower of the United States. Something like that is, I want to say, regime control. So that is needed. But what happened just now, the view from the current situation, maybe revolutionary guard is controlling Iran. So changing the will hasn't succeeded yet. And why I can say so? Because in case of the Hormuz, in case of the attack to the neighboring countries, President Pezeshkian apologized, and he declared Iran will not attack the neighboring country. Despite this, they continue to attack. This means that President Pezeshkian cannot control. This means that more higher hierarchies, they are controlling the military operation, which is the Revolutionary Guard. And currently, the new leader sworn in, the son of the former leader Khamenei. But he did not have the experience in the political field. This means that there's a possibility he is under control of the other Revolutionary Guard. So indeed, Revolutionary Guard hierarchy is controlling the full country and the military operation. So despite the voice of the president, indeed, diplomacy, the Revolutionary Guard ignored and only think about the military operation. That's why the attacks many neighboring countries and blockade the Hormuz, which the China rely on. So they ignore the diplomacy. Just military is dominated in this case. So that's why about the will, still the Revolutionary Guard is controlling. This means that U.S. hasn't achieved the goal. Okay, my talk is a little too long, but one more thing that I want to add, finally, very short. After this military operation, what will happen is a very interesting topic, I think, because Iran's influence will decline is fixed, because they spend too much energy, too much resources. So, but what will happen? America dreams the Israel-Saudi cooperation, but there is many rivalry in the Middle East. So what will happen is a very interesting topic in the big picture. That is maybe my explanation. At the beginning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Nakao. Like just the observation, like you mentioned, North Korea, and this is another threat in the Indo-Pacific region with the nuclears. And the questions were coming that if the U.S. administration will go after North Korea too, like this, to destroy the nuclears or to change the attitude of North Korean administration. And the second thing that you mentioned, the regime control, not the regime change. We will talk a little bit after the Sanaya's opening statement. Sanaya, over to you, please.
Thank you, Indu. Pleasure listening to other panelists as well. I think the scenarios that is unfolding right now with the conflicts like this, there are basically two stages of the conflict. One is obviously the military operation, which we have seen has been done successfully by US and its allies in decapitating the leadership of Iran. And now the purpose of this entire operation, I think, is somewhat confusing in the minds of the audiences, which is the wider regional audience of analysts and academics, as well as some of the leaders around, which is United States and its partners were not looking for regime change. The question that will come in the second section, I think they were not even looking for a regime collapse either. They were primarily looking at that they want to decapitate the Khomeini's leadership with the intent of reducing the imminent threat, which was coming from Iran to US and its partners in terms of nuclear weapons program. So the entire operation was actually aiming to destroy Iran's military capabilities, its missile program, naval capabilities, and basically resetting the clock, the nuclear clock of Iran, which was ticking closer every year towards acquiring the nuclear bomb. And with that intention, the operation was sort of urgent in the minds of the decision makers in Washington to reset the clock and avoid Iran reaching to that threshold. Now, that operation, I think, has served the objective so far. The second, the tricky part of such conflicts is what comes next. Like in every war scenario that I've been in the over the past many years in the simulation exercises, I think the typical confusing stage comes is the next move when the military operation is over. The ball is in the court of the weak entity or the weaker partner, which is Iranian in this case, which is resilient enough and not giving up and is continuing to retaliate and also expanding the theater of conflict. Now, with that, the threat is directly to U.S. partners and allies in the Gulf region, and they were not expecting this war to expand this much. And in fact, what is coming out from the Strait of Hormuz, which is going to be our discussion later in the discourse, I think that is another conflict for how long United States, which wanted to just dismantle the leadership and reset the nuclear clock, will be engaged in the region to take care of the energy sector from not impacting the global oil prices, the rising cost of the insurances, and how we are learning about the mines that are layered mines, which are already placed by Iran in the Strait of Hormuz, is going to affect the shipment and the vessels passing through this. So the conflict is not only expanding out of the military operation to internal destabilization of the region, there are also concerns about the broader non-proliferation regime, how the Gulf partners are going to see if extended deterrence that was supposed or promised by the United States to its Gulf partners really worked. And if nuclear question is not confined to Iran alone, but are they willing to pursue the nuclear path, something that in the UN I have discussed in our previous sessions about Muslim NATO concept. Will Saudi Arabia and other Gulf partners would be seriously looking to acquire nuclear capability? So this is going to be not only confined to this regional conflict alone, but I do feel that there are a lot of broader ramifications which would be coming out, and the crisis management of this conflict would be a very hard call for the analysts and policymakers sitting in Washington.
Thanks, Anaya. Like what you told us, that the threat was there closer to the U.S. and its allies about the nuclear threat, and U.S. in the very first day, in the first strike, they got the Iranian supreme leader killed. But the complex phase started after that. Unlike the Venezuela, they got the leader there of the same party. They just agreement with the U.S. agreement. There was everything was settled down in Venezuela. But here, the Iran started attacking, retaliatory attacks, not only the U.S. but in the Gulf countries too. So and the fighting is getting intense day by day. So Ambassador, let's go for the second round of these questions. One more questions on the U.S. Iran and the Western countries and Iran. Particularly, say we know that there are some kind of confusion between U.S. and European countries as well, but still they are agree on the one point that yes, the regime that what was the first phase completed by U.S. They were happy about that. But again, that the second phase that most of the countries like this said, like the Germany said that there is no exit plan for the U.S. So and the UK's role we all know about that. Ambassador, like the next question is that what I am thinking, or I don't know if others are thinking, that the U.S. primary focus is Western Hemisphere and Arctic. But here the U.S. involvement was necessary due to the nuclear threat or the failed negotiations. So whatever the reason you want to mention, then how do you see this conflict? Like if supposedly it ends by one region or another region, it ends. So what do you think that U.S. administration or President Trump will leave this to the Gulf countries? Okay, take care of this. Yeah, here we are, and now the regime changed, and maybe some kind of Iranian government that is not the fundamentalists as the Khamenei, but yes, we already seen that the Khamenei's leader is not accepted by the U.S. That is the another case. So what do you think, that the U.S. will leave this region like to the Israel and whatever you said, that Abraham Accord, that you are the expert on this, or the permanently re-engage to the Middle East, like US? What's your thought on that, Ambassador?
Oh, thank you. I've heard quite a few things, and if I may comment a little bit. Number one, no doubt Iran has been having these ambitions of having nuclear parity with Israel. But then most of the countries in the region have been also asking for a nuclear weapon-free Middle East. Who is not agreeing to that? There's a question for you all, for research scholars. Which is the country that has not even acknowledged that it is a nuclear country, yet threatens with the nuclear, and very likely can use it also if necessary, and the war goes sideways? Let's be very clear. There is only one country in the world that has used nuclear weapons since the history of it. So this is something. Secondly, if the United States was convinced that Iran was ready and about to go in for the nuclear weapon, or as they deem, why would they engage Iran for further negotiations? And if you were to believe the Omani mediators, according to him, on 27th, peace and ceasefire and the agreement was within reach once again. That's what he says. And nobody has countered it till now, neither the Americans, but there was a word used, imminent threat. What was the imminent threat? Okay, you want to remove Khamenei. What have you achieved by doing that? Last time also in July, as you rightly mentioned, June, Netanyahu wanted to remove him along with the other 6 generals that he killed. No doubt. I mean, there is no comparison between the US mighty force and the Israeli intelligence, superior intelligence. There's absolutely no comparison between Iranians and them. They are a divided lot. They are a diffuse. But this war has actually brought them together, all the Iranians. So if you don't understand the civilizational context of a country or the people, then you are going to land into this kind of problem again and again. This is 4 times the size of Iraq. And so United States, whatever they have done for whatever reasons, they know it better because so many times, I mean, maybe you guys know better, but at least at this end in South Asia, when we look at it, or rest of the world who's intellectually engaged with this matter, is not able to understand the reason and the timing of this particular thing. At least Khamenei had issued a fatwa against the nuclear weapons, Iran possessing a nuclear weapon. They had often said they were not pursuing the weapon. It is only after President Trump in his first term quashed the JCPOA, Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, that Iran started enriching to 60, 70%. It's only now. So we have to put all the facts together. It can't be just that we agree. And today, one more thing I want to tell you is we all are looking at the world with the way it is. But the gray zone warfare is the most important thing. Disinformation campaign from both sides, and all sides rather, is at its peak. You can't really make out what is the truth, what is wrong. You just read something and then you think, okay, this is right. There was, now Lindsey Graham asks the Gulf countries, he said you should get together and fight with us against Iran. What did the Prime Minister of Qatar say? That you will wash off your hands and you leave it for us to fight with the region. So they don't trust it. I mean, somebody mentioned about Israel coming close to Gulf countries. You know, UAE is the only country with which they are rather close. And that too, because until then it was working all right. But when this comes to this kind of a situation where their own existence is in danger, then it becomes extremely difficult. This is precisely the whole world has been wanting that there should be no war between Iran and Israel. And the United States ensured that it should not happen. But now that the United States was forced or willingly did it, we don't know. That only time will tell us. At the same time, so regime change agenda was very clear. I think Sania said it because President Trump in his very first statement said, I will give the country back to you and you run it the way you want to the people of. So what does it mean? It means regime change. Regime in Iran is not an individual. You know, in Hindu mythology, there is a story about one guy called Rakt Beej. So when this guy's blood falls on the earth, another one gets up like him. Precisely what we are looking at today. So I don't know. I mean, if we are today, what are the kind of conditions the Iran is giving now to stop the war? Not the Americans. Americans are looking for an off-ramp. They can't sustain a long-term war. None of their partners are with them in this. All Europeans feel cheated. Canada has openly said it. You know, they might say, okay, this is good sympathy, but then they are also thinking that, okay, a little bit of shaving of the Americans is good for them as well, because they have felt cheated by the way they have been treated in the past 1 year. So this is something that is, I think, a larger question is there. Nobody is gaining in the war. Nowhere anybody gains in the war. Everybody loses in the war. We have seen it again and again. And yet again, we go in for a war which is extremely dangerous. Now we are saying, okay, Iran is no match for American firepower. There is no doubt about it. Americans can decimate them. But can you decimate the people? 90 million of them. You've killed about 1,500, 1,600, a couple of thousands are gone there. Every single American base has been hit. THAAD missiles, 3 of them, not one, 3 of them, which is multi-billion-dollar, you know, very small Iranian drones have done it. Now, those are the kind of dangers that that are there. Now, countries like India are suffering because of this. The whole world, Japan, for example, is another country, which is Japan, South Korea, India, China, are the ones who were dependent a great deal on the supplies of oil from here. The economies depend a great deal on this. So, whose benefit this war actually was is the question that will be asked going forward in the future. I hope this war ends. Hope the sanity prevails. All sides decide that it is going to be a mutually destructive warfare. And it's not going to gain. I read some of the Israeli commentary also that they are. Secondly, we should also think about it that each country has its own reason for going to war. But your war objectives have to be extremely clear, number one. And how you are going to end the war should be clearer. Because if you don't know that, then you are going to have another Afghanistan, you will have another Iraq in Iran, and that would be more dangerous for the region, in my view.
Thank you, Mr. Very insightful remarks. Just a few observations on that. That you said that no one gains in the war. That's true, universal. So, but peace comes after the war. The history is filled with the wars. Like if we go in the medieval period or the ancient or the modern era. So. Second, that exit plan for the war. I think that the war, like when Russia invades Ukraine or Russia invades Crimea, I guess how can we imagine these kind of war have some kind of exit plans, like while Russia is doing what else in Ukraine since last
Precisely,
5 years.
I may agree with you totally. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
That you can go to a war, but you don't know whether you can end it.
Yep. Yes.
Whether it's
Yes.
Russia, whether it's US or China or any India, any other country. Ours is the only country that has shown that we can stop the war at will in 88 hours after achieving our objectives. Because the objectives were clear.
We will come to that point too of the geopolitical in South Asian because we saw what we saw in the Sindoor operations from India. So just want to bring this a point here that the fundamentalism that we talk about, like I don't want to go to the nuclear side because I'm not that expert of that, but I guess Sanaya can enlighten us, and Ambassador, you too, you have that kind of expertise for long years. Like when China had that kind of nuclear capability, India also did that. But that was the real threat, not the Pakistan. I guess so. What I understood in those years, but that Pakistan was like we say the security dilemma, and that Pakistan thought that India has the nuclear capability, so Pakistan did the same. So what kind of like when the Iran has the nuclear capability, what was happened to the Israel and other Gulf countries, and in fact in the U.S. that is a threat on the U.S. We saw the 9/11 happened here, and we saw then the President Trump's rally, like not taking the part of any party here. We already U.S. politics is so much divided, polarized, but still bring the points of those when a U.S. president was holding his rally, and then he was shot, and luckily he was escaped, like saved somehow. But that was also said that like preliminary investigations, not really fully revealed. That was by Iran, and then again there was an attack in Florida. So these kind of how a U.S. President can bear that. Like we know that mighty force of United States in Iraq and all these kinds of things. But again, let me bring Dr. Nagao here. Dr. Nagao, what do you think is the U.S. Is going to permanently engage in this war? Because I just heard the news in the morning and the last night, so that there's a conversation about the ground forces of U.S. So what do you think that it's going? U.S. is putting boots on the ground there in the Iran if the objectives are not achieved?
Japan's interest is how to deter China. So in this case, the two types of the results we can expect. First one is if US succeeded in Iran, China will afraid the United States, and US use military power without hesitation. Such kind of the image will come, and it will contribute to deter China to invade Taiwan. That is a good result. Bad scenario is completely opposite. Bad scenario is US spend too much resources in Iran and cannot escape the situation in Iran, and they cannot share enough resources to deter China to invade Taiwan. In this case, which factor is most important to distinguish these two scenarios, good one and bad one? Indeed, Japan is focusing on ammunition. Because ammunition, without ammunition, even if the US has the hardware, they cannot fight. And China is keeping ammunition. In case of the China's support to Russia, China hasn't provided ammunition to Russia. And even if the China sends material to produce ammunition or setting up the factory in Belarus to produce ammunition for Russia, but directly China hasn't sent ammunition because China needs ammunition. So that's why ammunition is a very important key. China has enough ammunition, they can invade Taiwan, they can attack Taiwan. And if the US lacks ammunition, US cannot fight in Taiwan. So that is currently Japan is focusing on. This is secret. How stock of the ammunition is secret in any countries, but this is very important.
Thank you, Dr. Nagao. Sanya, your comments on this.
I think what you heard latestly is also a very pressing question if United States is considering sending their troops on ground. And I do understand that this would be the least considered option by President Trump, who has been all about reducing war on American agenda. If there is a consideration, I think that is coming primarily from the concerns of the nuclear facilities and fissile material, which is in Iran, and how to basically cater that. That would be, I guess, more localized kind of a specialized operation with security teams, which are specialized in nuclear and air executions. So that would be, I think, entirely targeted towards how to take care of the fissile material. But again, I think that's a tricky question because Iran has been rehearsing for this kind of a conflict, I think, for 20 years. Given the fact that the best guess using the satellite imagery and database where the fissile material would be, there would be a lot of other places where they have hid the fissile material successfully. So that would be a good guess to do that by sending troops on the ground, which I guess would be a very localized kind of a targeted operation. But I don't think that would eliminate the entire threat of denuclearizing Iran entirely. However, yes, it will certainly give a lot of time to US and Israel because Iran would be is right now in a very weakened position after this entire episode. And it would take a lot of years for Iran to get back to their gear to steer the direction of a nuclear pursuit.
Thanks, Anaya. Let's move to the regional geopolitics. Ambassador, I just want to come to you first. Please enlighten us about India's relationship with Iran and how and discuss how this relationship is influenced by India's close ties with Israel. We know that Prime Minister Modi was there like 36 hours before this operation, this attack happened. And I know, like, compared to the Japan, India and Pakistan, I guess South Asian domestic politics is more polarized on these issues. The opposition party, I just watched a little, there was a debate going on. So what do you think, that India knew about this attack, or like what the news channel was saying? I don't think so. Like your comments, Ambassador.
Well, I think that one thing is very clear, that this was exactly the same playbook which happened in June. There were 6 rounds of negotiations, and they almost reached a certain level of comfort, both sides, when the attacks took place. The fact remains is that Israel does not want this agreement to be signed or an understanding between the US and the Iran to be reached, like that happened in 2017-18, so that the fear that it has of this particular regime, which believes in the decimation or destruction of Israel, the state of Israel, it is not comfortable about any kind of an agreement. So therefore, it will do anything it can to sabotage such an agreement, which will constrain the American hands. Because America is the only country that will stand up, irrespective of right or wrong, with Israel. And they have stood up. This is their primary foreign policy objective in the region. So if you are following the region and you are following the way, and if you thought that there will be no war very soon, then I think we were living in an ivory tower. In my view, I always wrote about it and said that this is near threatening and that it is what will happen. And the Iranians understood it while they were preparing and talking. And this time they even agreed that we will not enrich and we will hand over our 440 kilogram of enriched uranium to anybody. IAEA was there. And everybody has said that Iran was nowhere near making a weapon. So there was no imminent threat in that sense of the term. So it was all because, see, once you agree to such an agreement, if President Trump wants an agreement, I mean, there's no doubt about it. That's why he has been engaging with Iran for a very long time. But he has a Jewish lobby to contend with. Netanyahu was there 6 times trying to tell President Trump and White House that, Iran is and this Khamenei is the real culprit and we must take him out. So they were misled in my view. And that's what Rubio said. I mean, I don't have to quote myself. Rubio himself has said, you all have learned that Iran, whether we wanted or not, but Israel was determined to go and attack Iran. So if that was the case, then obviously they have been dragged in it. And so all the Gulf countries whose security dependent on the United States, they have also realized this time that the US cannot be a reliable security provider. This is unfortunately the end result of this war. Because they have been hit at will by the Iranians. And Iranians have been telling from day one that if they are attacked, every single base or US asset in the region, whether economic, whether military, will be a fair target. And that's precisely, if we don't believe that, that means we are making a mistake of judgment. So this precisely, they should have anticipated that this was going to happen. Iran repeatedly has been saying that. It was not something that they did out of the blue. But this time, since they seem to be prepared, they immediately reacted to it. Now, as far as India is concerned, we follow a policy of dehyphenation, at least since 2014. My relationship with Israel, which is strategic partnership, very close defense partnership, intelligence partnership, has nothing to do with my relationship with Iran, which is also strategic, or with Saudi Arabia, which is also strategic. We talk about dialogue diplomacy. Prime Minister Modi went there, and I'm quite sure he would have discussed the situation and would have tried to deter. But nobody can deter you if you are being supported by you have the confidence of your own, number one, and of the hyperpower in the world. Then why would you deter from eliminating your enemy? But that is precisely their game plan is. So we always say that in our bilateral talks with Iran, with Israel, with everybody. You have seen because of that the Iranians understand it, the Saudis understand it. So our policy is having bilateral relationship and try to contribute to the peace if possible. The only country which has some sane foreign policy and objectives which it propagates and stands by is India, and that's precisely what we have told them. So if they want, now we had the Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister at the Raisina Dialogue. I'm sure you saw his video, which went viral over everywhere else. We have Israelis coming to India and talking to us all the time. But we don't want war because this war is disastrous for us. And every country fights for its own national interest first.
Sir, a few little questions about whatever the India's role. We know the strategic autonomy. We know the starting from the non-alignment movement. Just one going back in the history. I just discussed some of my European colleague. He's a faculty over here. So met with him in a coffee, and then do you think that like Iran's regime, like the Khamenei regime and the Iran's Shah, if the change, I read in the Indian newspaper, some local newspaper too, if it changes, it will not in favor of India, and particularly in my view, in my analysis, because it was, let's say, when we talk about Mughals, in 1739, we read in the history that the Iranian Shah looted India and caused that peacock whatever the so
Throne.
the peacock throne, and there is some other thing too, the jewels and jewelries and whatever they. So doesn't India like thinking so? When we talk about the Mughals, we are so frustrated, or we want to remove them from our textbooks. So what about that Iran's relationship? I know the ancestor relationship of Khamenei from from Uttar Pradesh, from the Awadh province. So the first thing is that. The second thing is that the strategic autonomy. When we talk about India's strategic autonomy, and no doubt that no country can ignore India at this time. Like it's a kind of continent itself. Like we, whenever I go somewhere, I just talk. I just say like this. So, but when India do India have a kind of stand, or should India take a kind of stand like when there is Indian Ocean, there was a military exercise in the land there, and that's the Iranian ship was sank. Should India has to retaliate or not, at least some kind of dissatisfactions toward the United States, that because India is a net security provider in the Indian Ocean?
Yes, that is right. But there is a standard protocol and there is a NOTAM. These exercises, which were called Milan exercises, were held. 31 countries participated in that. Iran was one of them. They brought in their 3 ships, and after the exercises, they were returning. And these ships were basically unarmed, right? And so when they were returning, so in the international waters, the Americans had intelligence, they must be following them. And then they shot down one of them. The other 2, they asked India to provide them assistance and to provide them berthing rights. India provided them. And they came. And for that, Iranians have expressed their gratitude to us. So they said that, yes, those ships are still in Kochi. So one ship was sunk, but whether it is Americans have done something which is illegal or whether it was against the international law, I mean, superpowers don't care about the international law. We have seen it. They have repeatedly violated it. So is the question. Secondly, they are at war. And this is America's stated objective to finish off the Iranian Navy. As far as India is concerned, I mean, if we were escorting the ship, this is not the responsibility of the host country to escort the ships that have participated in the exercises. They come there, they are not armed, they're not supposed to be armed unless they're live drills, and then they go back. It has been a standard. But this time is very different because they are going back to this. They will join probably the war against US. So US thought of taking them out. But the other 2, when they asked India for the help, immediately within 24 hours, they were allowed to come into. They took some time to reach Indian shores from the international waters, but we provided them all the assistance. And India remains a net security provider in the region as far as the commercial shipping is concerned, piracy is concerned. But we are not there to fight wars. We'll fight our own wars. That's it.
All right, sir. Thanks, Sanaya. I will take your insights on that. One question that is focused on Pakistan, and then I will invite Dr. Nagao for the energy crisis in the East Asia or the larger Indo-Pacific. So, Sanaya, what do you think about, like, we saw the protests in Pakistan in the U.S. consulate, and again that they were so upset and frustrated about the Khamenei's death. While difference in Shias and Sunnis, so we know that. And on the other side, Pakistan is a U.S. ally, and we saw the prime ministers and General Munir's relations with the President Trump. So how it happened, and what is the delicate balance what Pakistan is looking for, and then I will ask all of you about the energy crisis, and then we will wrap up the session. Yeah.
Yes. So yes, this is very interesting. I think Pakistan is in a very tricky moment right now. So 3 challenges at hand right now. One is obviously the sectarian conflict, which Pakistan was always trying to tread on a very delicate balance between the Gulf countries, Saudi Arabia versus Iran. Because if Pakistan has Pakistan always had a troubled relationships with Iran because of the insurgency in Balochistan and the border issues. However, there was always a tacit agreement that Pakistan did not want it to push too much so that it will ignite some sectarian conflict inside Pakistan. After all, Pakistan has like a lot of Shia community in the country, so that's why the sentiments of the Shia community are very important. And when this happened and the decapitation strike on the Iranian leadership happened, leading to Khamenei's death, there was a widespread protest nationwide, which was one of them was the important incident was blazing the U.S. consulate in Karachi, and that resulted in multiple arrests and deaths, around 30 to 40 people by the law enforcement, which is sad in the month of Ramadan. So these were these issues are going to be very delicate balance. But another important issue is Pakistan's two-front war situation, where the border with Afghanistan is already inflamed, and we know that tensions with India are also pushing Pakistan to the edge. So while having two borders, which are longest land borders with countries which are inflamed, Pakistan's military and its resources are widely stretched across the borders. And the third important dilemma is that Pakistan's diplomatic contradiction. For a long time, the narrative that the establishment created for the country and for the public was its anti-Israel sentiment, and it was more in the favor of Palestinian state, which for a long time Pakistan successfully equated with the Kashmir, linking that Israeli occupation to the Palestine is so much congruent to what Indian occupation is of Kashmir. Now, those sentiments, they created some sort of a narrative which rooted for decades inside Pakistan, and the far right people have held those narratives very strongly. With the changing dynamics in Pakistan, the upmost reality for Pakistan is the economic deterioration of the country and the institutional interest. With these two changes, they remain the constant in the country. The economic situation has been deteriorating over the past several years that compel Pakistan to always look for the Gulf partners and Saudi Arabia, which cannot be ignored as much as United States itself for the IMF lifeline that Pakistan gets every year. And then we have what is the institution demands that Pakistan wants itself to position in this scenario as the arbiter of peace, and Pakistan has long-term relationship with Saudi Arabia to provide defense and security if anything happens in Saudi Arabia and it needs an external security threat. So for Pakistan, I think if any situation deteriorates, which is seemingly that it is known that Pakistan did send its naval ships to Saudi Arabia to protect the oil infrastructure over there. So I think Pakistan has made a choice that it will side with Saudi Arabia and Gulf partners in support of United States and Israel.
Thanks, Sinaya. And we are just running out of time, though we have a lot of stuff to discuss here. Just the last 1 minute of your remarks and the concluding remarks on if the state of Hormuz closes, if Iran, because Iran already issued warnings of that. And there was 16 ships that U.S. attacked on the mining ships. That was something that what will be the scenario of the energy crisis that is already we have already seen the countries are concerned, and with that that's a small short question. I want your short question. Would Russia gain from selling more oil if the Strait of Hormuz closes, or suffer from losing Iran as an friend or partner? Your 1 minute remarks, Dr. Nagao, first.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, the view from the Revolutionary Guard strategy, it will happen, I think, because they attacked many oil refinery of the other neighbor countries, the nearly 10 countries. So Strait of Hormuz will be blockaded, even if the China rely on, could happen. 38% of the ship going through the strait with oil is China. So other country, India 15%, South Korea 12%, Japan 11%. Compared with other countries, share of the China is very big. So in case of China, this is serious. And but in this case, the view from Japan, this is serious, but not too serious, because in case Japan has storage the 254 days worth. And in case of the LNG more serious, only 3 weeks. But anyway, Japan has a storage. So even if the blockade state of Hormuz, indeed Japan can survive. And in case of India UAE agreement, India has some storage of the UAE in India, I heard. So this storage is working. So now is the age of storage and security. Everyone should prepare it. This is a lesson I understand. But just now, this is serious, and serious for China too. You are mute.
Ambassador, your
Yeah.
comment.
Well, whether we like it or not, this is going to impact the world eventually. Prices have already shot up more than $110, and if further really chokes take place and the Strait of Hormuz completely closes down, it is not only the 20% of the energy that flows through. There are other trade. I mean, for India, 80% of its trade passes through the this channel. So sea lanes of communications have to remain open. And if the supplies of oil is restricted to the countries, the economies are going to be impacted. As far as Russia is concerned, I mean, India has diversified. For example, we are already buying from Russia once again, which was initially pressured by the United States through sanctions. So they are saying now it's okay. So we are buying more and more oil from Russia. India is also going to buy oil from US as well as from Canada. So that is also just today's development. So we'll continue. And plus, as Dr. Nagao is saying, we have about 75 days roughly the reserves that we have. And at present, there is no need for this. But overall, the prices will go up. That will have a cyclical impact on the economies going forward.
Thank you, Ambassador. And Sanaya, your remarks on this.
Yes, very similar. I think Strait of Hormuz is 1/5 of the world crude traded oil actually passes through this. So that's definitely going to impact the world economy. And Russia will actually benefit in the short term from the oil because Russia is also one of the biggest oil exporters itself. So Russian market will go up for the short term. But the downside is I think Russia never wanted Iran to destabilize in that extent, because with Ukraine conflict still brewing in the backyard and having one of the regional partners, which is Iran, having very close ties with Russia, I think this is not a very much likely scenario for Russia to embrace it. So I think that would be upsetting for Russia, and it's again, it depends on how the regional actors play their role in de-escalating the conflict.
And one thing I would like to add,
Yes,
I would like
please.
to add, Dr. Indu. President Trump has spoken to President Putin, and not only about the oil and the Ukraine crisis, but also has asked him to play a role of a mediator between Iran and the US at this time.
Yeah, because earlier there was a news that Russian intelligence is there providing the Iranian help. So that's why so maybe there are some more other talks going on, and we'll follow the news and the other statements. And I would like to thank you, our panelists here. And it was such an interesting discussions. And thank you for your time and participation at this webinar.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Indu. Thank you once
Good
again
night.
for holding us together.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.